Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about environment and how it affects health of those living in the environment. The Earth can be split into one of the four major subsystems. And I think before that, we need to talk about what is environment. So environment is a combination of all the physical, chemical, and biological factors acting upon an organism or an ecological community. And it is also defined as the interaction of these factors which then determine the form of survival of living things and the environment itself. If I put it simply, environment means anything and everything that is surrounding us. So as I was saying before, the Earth can be split into one of the four major subsystems, namely land, water, air, and all living things. These categories are known as spheres, and if we name them, these are called lithospheres, hydrospheres, atmosphere, and biosphere. So environment actually is divided into these four components. The lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere are abiotic spheres, which means they're not living things. While the last one, the biosphere, is the one where living things live. Let's talk about that each one of them. So we talked about atmosphere, biosphere, lithosphere, and hydrosphere. Lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere are non-living, and the biosphere is the one which is the living thing. So these are the four components of environment. Let's talk about atmosphere. The atmosphere of Earth, which we usually refer to as simply air, is actually made up of various gases and vapors. It forms bubble around the Earth and is held there by force of gravity. This keeps the vapors of the atmosphere from escaping into outer space, and it is also the atmosphere which makes the Earth inhabitable, which means that people are able to live on Earth. The combination of the chemicals in the air, as well as the way in which the atmosphere creates a barrier between the Earth and harmful rays of the sun, makes an environment in which animals, plants, and human life can thrive. The atmosphere can be separated and identified in several of its own 5 layers, and we're not going to talk about that. The atmosphere of Earth, if we generally look at, is made up of nitrogen with a composition of 78%. So 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. The second most common gas is oxygen, which makes up of 21%. And it is the most important for both humans and animals' life, because we inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. And the third most prominent gas is argon, which is only 0.9%. The second sphere is called hydrosphere. It is the water sphere of the Earth. This includes the total amount of water that can be found on the whole planet. From that, on the surface, like lakes, ocean, rivers, etc., as well as the underground water. Because it includes water, this also means that it encompasses water that is found in liquid, vapor, or solid form. The third sphere is called lithosphere. It's the earth or land portion of the Earth. More specifically refers to the rocks and outer surface of the Earth crust and upper portion of the mantle of the. So it's what's covering the Earth and underneath it. The Earth itself can also split into several layers, and we're not again going into much detail of that. I'm sure if you must have read in your science and chemistry lessons before. And the lithosphere, finally, is the land on which biological life lives in. And the last is the biosphere, which is a sphere of the Earth which includes all organic living life. Whether this life is on Earth's surface in the atmosphere or below the ground, it is part of the larger biosphere system that makes up life in this planet. So in this way, the biosphere blends into the other 3 spheres of the Earth, and the biosphere roughly ranges 20 kilometers or 12 miles from its highest point or its deepest. Generally speaking, though most of the Earth's life is much closer to the surface and can be found within about 500 meters or 1,640 feet below sea level, and 6 kilometers or 3.75 miles above the ocean level. So from the Talas Ocean to the deepest ocean, all organic life is part of the biosphere. This includes all type of life, from insects to fungi, animal, birds, plants, or organisms like bacteria and fungus. This life is then divided into series of classification, like we know that phylum, classes, order, families, or other species. There are 5 different kingdoms known as animal, plant, fungi, and protist, and monera, and all of these encompass the entirety of biosphere. The large biosphere is then further broken down into biomass and ecosystem, which are more specific working systems of animals and plants in any given area. Together, they form an intricate web of life, which, when kept in balance, allows our Earth to run in harmony. So we talked about various components of environment. And as I said earlier, some of the components of environment are abiotic, which is non-living environment, which includes physical things like, air, temperature, water, soil, sunlight, and chemical factors, minerals, and other nutrients. And the other one is biotic, or living environment, which consists of biological factors such as organisms and their products and waste. So again, in this picture, you can see examples of biotic and non-biotic factors. So there are living factors, which is plants, animals, and all others. And there are non-living factors, which makes living possible. So I hope you found this information useful. Environment can also be divided into other aspects when it comes to CHN, and those aspects include physical environments, in which we talk about the building and the structure surrounding us, the place in which we live in. Social environment is the culture and the structure and the rules and regulations and the way we talk to each other and everything else. Economic environment is where people earn and spend money, and so on and so forth. So thank you for watching, and I hope you found this useful. Please do leave your comments.